Okay, can you guys hear me good? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Again, happy Tuesday to all of you guys. Again, it is March the 1st. Again, happy March 1st. It's a new month, new week, pretty much. And again, I want to welcome actually our newest guest to also to the office, the newest family member, Miss Brenda Urena. She's actually our newest soon to be licensee as well, but she's already taken the trainings from Eddie, which is awesome. And again, please make her feel welcome when you guys see her in the office. So give her a round of applause. Yay, make her feel cheering, fun, excited. Okay. And welcome, Brenda. And again, so any questions you have, Brenda, again, we have us from Ruby, Eddie, myself, and the rest of the gang here to help you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice meeting everybody.
Okay. Okay, so Eddie, any announcements on your trainings yesterday that you had Mondays before we give the mic to Ruby?
It went very well. We had obviously new participants and Norberto, Brenda, and Ethan. And so it was nice to have the new blood in there. But, you know, the constants that are always showing up, you know, give them a lot of respect and props for always showing up and, you know, pushing themselves harder every day.
Awesome. Okay, so without any further ado, let's give Ashley a nice warm welcome to our host speaker, Ms. Ruby Diego from the Lakewood office. She's our manager from over there. So again, so we have 3 managers here taking over. Yeah. All right, the mic is yours, Ruby. Just unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, Ruby. Ruby, you're muted, Ruby.
There you go.
All right, guys.
Okay, nice.
Originally, when I came up with the idea to share this, the title was actually The Rosier Side of Real Estate. Why did you become a real estate agent? Freddie, why did you become a real estate agent?
I was dragged into the business. I didn't like real estate. I'm honest. Seriously, I like it.
How do you feel about it now?
I love it.
Okay, but why did you become a real estate agent then?
Huh?
Why did you become a real estate agent?
You know what? The money. Because I was seeing my brother's commissions check when I was up with my brother back in the 90, 99, 2000. His commissions checks, you know what? It's something I want to do. I like it. It's up with the money. That's how it is.
And Eddie?
And of course, helping people.
Eddie, why did you become a real estate agent?
You know what? The businesses that I had been in, I felt like I was working for other people, you know, making them rich. And when Freddie talked to me about real estate, it felt like I had an opportunity to kind of create my own business and, you know, be my own boss and make myself rich instead of somebody else.
Right. Most people come into the business because of the flexibility that you can just work whenever you feel like it, or, you know, the hours that you choose to. And they also come into the business because of the glamorous life they think we live. Going to nice restaurants with the clients and just sitting there and having a good time. Or what about the nice cars? I remember your brother's car, Freddie. Beautiful car. I mean, and I remember, you know, the first couple years in the business, I would drive into the office in my little beat up van, and all the more experienced agents that were up there killing it, they had these beautiful, gorgeous cars. The money is one of the big reasons why people come into the business, not understanding really what they're doing when they come into this business. My story was that I had actually owned a couple businesses before I came into real estate. I had a restaurant. I had a garment manufacturing business. I had an attorney's office, which sounds weird. I'm not an attorney, but I did work in personal injury cases. And I owned the office and the attorney serviced it. And, you know, businesses, the attorney's business, just too much stress. And I decided I didn't want to do that because at the end of the day, the stress comes out at home and the family. Then the restaurant, you had to be there 7 days a week, 24 hours in order to make it work, you know? And it was just like, no, I don't want to do that. I have 4 kids. And then we opened the garment manufacturing business and it was going fantastic. And it was when the Twin Towers got blown up.
Oh, wow.
and our contracts were to New York. And we were the last company that was hired on to do contract business for a high fashion garment manufacturing business. And I was, we were making money. We were killing it. And we had just gotten started. But because we were the first one, the last one in, we were the first ones out. They canceled all of our contracts. And I had to sell every piece of equipment in the business. And I had 4 kids. The oldest one was about 15 years old. The youngest one was about 9 years old. And, right around the time that they start going to all the amusement parks, and they just needed a lot of stuff. They all played instruments. They all played sports. And it was ridiculous. We had to figure something out quick. And we had a friend owned a brokerage, a small office, 20 agents, and my at that time husband went to visit him, and he saw what he was doing, and this was back in 2001. And so I get my license, and we come into this business, and because of all the businesses we own, we had this huge sphere of influence and people that trusted us. And right away, first month, I opened up 4 escrows. And I think the price point back then was about $350 or something like that. Not bad. And back then, the commissions were normally around 3% on each side, so 6% total. If from time to time you'd come across with something 2.5. So I'm thinking, my first month, we open up 4 escrows and it's going great. And all of a sudden, transactions started to fall out. 3 of them canceled and 1 of them I got closed. So, what do you do? What do you do when you're first starting in the business and your first transactions, they fall out? They're like crazy bad transactions, one reason or another. You didn't know the business well enough. You trusted what other people were telling you, and you just kind of played it by ear and didn't take enough training or whatever it was. It doesn't matter. And, one of the things I love about this company is that we have all this amazing training that's there for us. And so just knowing that you have all this training, you really have to take advantage of that training. You don't want to, go through all that stress, having transactions fall out. But what do you do when that does happen? Take a deep breath. Don't panic. Because if you do, you lose control of what you really can do. I think, going back in time and thinking of those transactions, I can tell you about every single one of them. And at the end of the day, I wound up closing each of those clients on a different property. But going back, I think I could have saved the transactions if I would have known what I know now. And so the biggest thing is don't panic. You really have to understand what the problem is. So you have to identify what the problem is. Once you can identify what the problem is, then you define the main elements of the problem. At this point, I work with 4 different lenders. And the reason is because different lenders have different options. You could imagine that they don't, but they do. And sometimes one lender can't do it, but another lender can. And you really have to understand their program. So I'm going to tell you something a very smart gentleman up in Victorville told me. You have to become a master of your industry. You don't have to know how to make a loan, but you do have to understand how they work. You don't need to know how a home warranty works, but you have to understand what it does. You don't need to know every aspect of the title transaction, but you do need to understand a title report. You need to be able to read it and understand what each page means. I had a recent transaction, and the lender that I was working with, or am currently working with, all of a sudden decided that they didn't want to do loans on transactions. This is going to sound weird. On transactions that had mineral rights from 500 feet from the surface. Okay, what that means is nobody can go into the property and drill from the surface to 500 feet. They have to do like side drilling to get access to the minerals within the property. So the first 500 feet have to be protected. And so how do you know if that's the case? You got to read the title report and you got to understand it. So, you don't have to know every aspect of everything that takes place in a real estate transaction, but you do need to understand each one. One is because you want to know for your own purposes to make sure that the transaction is going to close. And number two, if your client has questions in regards to it, you need to be able to answer those questions. And, if it gets very detailed, then you can bring in the experts, but you need to be able to understand most parts. So define the main elements of the problem, and then you got to examine the possible solutions. So I'm going to tell you, sometimes you got to go to your client right away and tell them, this is what the issue is, and this is how you can help me. If you know what the problem is and how to deal with it. But other times you really got to sleep on it. But I'm going to tell you right now, when I tell you got to sleep on it, doesn't mean you stay awake the entire night thinking about how to resolve it. You really got to put it off of your mind, sleep on it, and wake up with fresh eyes, fresh mind the next day. And then you can figure it out. In either case, you got to consider the risks and the factors that are unforeseen with the solutions that you've come up. And then when you bring it to your client and to the lender and to the title rep or whatever the issue is, depending on what the situation is, you got to take all parts. You got to consider all parts that are involved and factor in what you think is going to be unforeseen. Consider that it could go sideways, even though you have a solution. So come up with a solution because we're not in the business that doesn't have problems. We're in the business that solves problems. And that's for your clients and for your transactions. You're working with lenders, with title reps, with escrow officers. You're working with all these people all the time, and you really have to understand how to resolve issues, how to make everything work together. Don't let a deal that's going sideways die just because you got to make some changes in there. You got to make some adjustments. And so the big thing with that is you have to understand the seller wants to sell and the buyer wants to buy. And so when you know that the buyer wants to buy and the seller wants to sell, they're going to do everything in their power to close that transaction. So you work with them. You work with them in a fashion that opens up the possibilities to them, hey, this is what the problem is. Here are a couple of different solutions. So recently, I have a transaction that's open up north. So the one thing that's kind of neat that I think I do different from a lot of agents is I'll go where the business is. I don't have little kids anymore. My youngest is 29. So I have a deal in Porterville. I have one in San Bernardino. I have one in Victorville, and I have one in Tehachapi right now. So I'm all over the place. But this one that's in Porterville, at the end of the day, the seller got, I'm going to share the story. I'm not going to share names. The seller got deported, and they needed to get the documents signed at the embassy. And so they had to get to the embassy, but the lady gets COVID during the transaction. Wow. And she couldn't get to the embassy. And then one time the embassy just got filled with a bunch of the area the COVID surge was huge. And so they closed the MSC down. They weren't letting anybody in. So we're waiting, 30 days for her to get off of COVID, and then that she can travel to the MSC, because she was 4 hours away from the MSC. And so it just became a big mess. But the biggest thing is to keep a cool head, to talk with the sellers, to talk with the buyers, and to just get it done. So as long as you can, you can keep the transaction going, most people will want to stay in their transaction. Then my client is $2,300 short on closing funds.
Ugh.
And the lender requires $1,000 worth of termite repairs, which were agreed upon at the beginning. My client thought that they were going to have enough money, but the lender wouldn't allow the money that came in recently to be used. So he had the money, but just couldn't get it to be used during the transaction. So we had to get the seller to agree to pay for the termite, and I had to take a reduction on my commission just so we can close this transaction. So we're close. They're drawing docs this week. So what I'm saying is, you have to be open. You have to be flexible, because remember, if I let this deal die just because I didn't want to take a reduction on my commission, what's that going to do with my clients? Am I going to lose a couple of referrals in the long run? Is it going to mean less money or more money? You have to understand that sometimes you got to take a hit, and it's okay. But if you service your clients well, you'll get referrals in the future from those clients, and the benefit is going to be greater than the hit you took. So, do whatever it takes to close a transaction, but consider the risks and the factors. Big thing here: communicate with your clients. In the very beginning, I was losing hair. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep because I was feeling terrible that, these transactions were getting ready to fall out, and trying to figure out, how am I going to tell my client that this isn't going to work and it's going to fall out? So I was losing sleep. I wasn't eating well. I was losing my hair. And the easiest thing to do is just communicate with your client and say, hey, this is what happened. And unless you can do this or that, I don't see a result. Communicate with them. They're people. They understand you're a person, and there's only so much that we can do. But as long as you understand what happened and you can explain it to them, break it down to them, don't promise things that you can't do. You can't promise that every transaction is going to close. You can look at, once you've done, a certain amount of transactions, you can look back and look at your ratios, how many you actually close of the ones that you open. And then also look at what your lender does. You want to factor in. So you look at the numbers of your open transactions and the ones that you close and the ones that fall out. But then also you got to look at the way they were handled. So the lender that's on the transaction, you want to look at those percentages too. Because you want to have those numbers ready for your clients, and you want to share with them. Not everything closes. So, we feel really confident that your transaction will close. We can't foresee you having any issues right now to qualify. About 2 years ago, maybe about 3 years ago, I had a client who was a truck driver, and he drove those trucks that moved gasoline. And he was doing great. He was working, 60 hours a week and making all kinds of money and everything. And it was going fantastic. But I don't know if you remember when they opened up the pipeline, the underground pipeline, and a lot of truck drivers lost their job then. They reduced his working hours to like 35 hours a week or 30 hours a week, something less than half of what he was actually doing right before they open up that pipeline. So no fault of mine, no fault of the lenders, no fault of the sellers. On my buyer's end, he couldn't qualify for the loan because he lost his job, which he couldn't even foresee. And he didn't have anybody that could co-sign or anything. So you cannot guarantee every transaction is going to close. You can do your best work. You can be diligent, but you cannot guarantee to your clients that every transaction is going to close. So communicate with your clients. Don't make decisions for them. Okay? Because you never know. So you, a client like that, you would say, hey, this is what the deal is. He had a daughter that was working. It was wanting to buy her own home. But they decided to join forces, and she came on as a co-signer. And they moved in together to their home. So at the end of the day, they closed that transaction. Now he's back to work. Something happened with that pipeline, and now he's doing well again. And, you know, you can't make decisions for them. You can't say, oh, this deal's not going to work, and just cancel it. Explain what the problem is. Maybe they can come up with a solution. Communicate with the other side. Please communicate with the other side. Be courteous, because on the listing side, that listing agent is trying to hang on to that deal as well. The longer you take to tell him what the problem is, the longer he has to wait to tell his client. And, you know, you're going to make a listing agent lose their client. Don't do that, because you never know when you're going to come back and work with that listing agent again. You may close doors if you don't do what you have to do, and that's communicate with the other side. It's important that you do that. Sometimes meeting in the middle works. Just like this transaction where, you know, my client was short 2,300s in closing costs plus $1,000 worth of termite repairs. The seller decided to do the $1,000. They didn't want to go back into another transaction and kill the deal. So sometimes meeting in the middle works. Just talk to the agent on the other side, let them know what's going on so they can talk to their seller and see if maybe they can make it work. You know, don't close the doors to anything. And then if you communicate well with that agent, regardless of what problems you're having during the transaction, the likelihood that if you ever submit another offer to that agent again, that he'll work with you or she'll work with you is greater just because you communicated. So one big thing is, you know, when those 3 deals of mine in the beginning were falling out, I stopped answering my phone to my clients, to the listing agents, to the lenders. I just, you know, it got so overwhelming, but it got overwhelming because I wasn't communicating. If I would have just picked up the phone and talked to people, you know, and let them, you know, if it had to cancel, just cancel it. If we could move forward, then we could move forward. But the reality is that you do have to communicate, because it'll make your life a lot easier. So take that into consideration. You know, it's not a benefit to you to not answer the phone. The biggest benefit is in communicating, because if the deal is going to cancel, then it's going to cancel. What are you going to do about it? You're just sitting on it for a few days and making it a bad situation even worse. You can't do that. So for yourself, for your client, for the listing agent and their client, and for the lenders and everybody involved, the best thing you can do is just communicate. Then take a day. Once your transaction's canceled, take a day. Don't beat yourself up. Go to the beach. Go hiking. Cook something that you really enjoy. Spend a good day with your family at the park. Do something. Give yourself don't take that day and beat yourself up. Take that day and just relax. Don't sweat it anymore. The deal's canceled. What are you going to do about it? After that day has gone by, you want to take the lessons learned. Very expensive lesson learned, because you have a canceled transaction. It could have meant, you know, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in your pocket. So it costs you that much to learn the lesson. And so you want to avoid the problem in the future. I don't know, have a notepad that you keep all your problems written on, the problems you faced in a transaction. Or you want to have an Excel spreadsheet or something that you can go back to and just say, what did I do in this transaction? How can we make it better?
Sorry. Sorry.
So learn your lesson. For the future, you want to prepare and avoid that problem. I'm going to go over some of the major problems that we face in our transactions. And you guys, Eddie and Freddie, I'm going to count on you and anybody else that wants to jump in and just make comments. Problem number one, for whatever reason, your buyer can't get the mortgage for the purchase, having the financing go sideways, for whatever reason. I had one transaction that the 90-day rule came into effect recently, and the seller had purchased the property prior to the 90-day flip rule, and during the transaction they decide to change the title, and so it brings the 90-day rule into play, and we lost that transaction. For whatever reason, the loan can't be done. You have to really figure out that client was going FHA, and he had a little money to play with. So we went to a 5% conventional, and the 90-day flip rule didn't apply at that point to that one transaction. So, you can come up with solutions. But you have to tell your buyers, this is what the problem is. This is how we can resolve it. Can you come in with a little more money? Get lenders credits, whatever it takes to make it work. Have you had a situation like that, Freddie? Or Eddie? Or anybody?
Definitely. There's been times where we've had to add a buyer. Last minute, we find out that they can't count on the income they thought they were receiving, but since it wasn't within the 2 years, the bank checked on it, and then they said, they don't qualify for it. So right away we scrambled, talked to the buyers, let them know, like, this is the situation. You need to talk to your people and see who's willing to help you out. And, within a couple of days, they had a cousin jump in. They verified everything, employment, and bam, we got it closed. So it happens.
It does. None of us have ever dealt with this, right? The bank would, and I just have the bank. I don't know why I put the bank, but the appraisal doesn't come in. The value isn't high enough to, right now, this isn't a big deal because everybody is going above appraisal value, but, there will be a time where we get back to normal, and having to renegotiate because the appraisal didn't come in is a thing. For the majority of my career, my almost 2 years of it being in the business, we renegotiated whenever the appraisal didn't come in. And sometimes it takes it from both sides. You have to have the buyer come in with a little additional above the appraisal, and then have the seller come down on the sales price. That way nobody takes such a big hit. But this problem may seem to be out of your control, but there are things that you can do to avoid it. So one of the big things with me is that when we're writing up an offer, number one, I ask the listing agent, what do you think it's going to appraise at? Because the listing agent already did their homework. And then the second part is you need to know how much money your client really has to play with. You don't need to tell the other side. You can, but you don't have to. And the third thing is you want to run your own comps, especially in this crazy market. You really want to understand where the property sits and what it will most likely appraise at. Because that way it doesn't catch you by surprise. So one of the things that I've been doing with my clients is not just agreeing to pay above appraisal, but agreeing to a top amount that they'll pay on above the appraisal. Because if the appraisal comes in lower than the listing agent expected and the seller expected, you don't want to have an unlimited amount above appraisal that your buyer is going to come in with. You want to be able to, so the one deal in Victorville, I did 10 above appraisal because that's how much money my client had available to be able to offer above appraisal value. The seller came back with the counter at 15. And I said, I'm sorry, we just can't do it. I've looked at my client's bank statements. We don't have the money to play with that much money. So we can do it at 10. And I showed them, you know, the funds that my clients had available. And the seller said, okay, let's do it. So just because you don't have whatever their off, you know, whatever their counter offer is, just because you can't meet it doesn't mean that the deal won't be done. Always share with the listing agent what you think can be done and tell them why and renegotiate with them. In some cases, it'll work. Not in every case, but in some cases, it'll work. This one is a really difficult one to deal with. You know, the home inspection turns up a lot of problems. There are two things that you can do if this happens. Number one, before you go into the physical inspection. Now, by the way, you know, I'm gonna share with you, right when I started in the business, there was a lot of stuff that was going on, and you cannot not encourage your client to have a physical inspection. I'm going to suggest that you encourage your clients to get the physical inspection because that way they absolutely know what they're buying. Number two, you're protected because they knew exactly what they were buying. And, you know, you cannot tell them, oh, don't get the physical inspection. It's not a big deal. The house looks great. And try to avoid that. Number one, cost. And number two, you know, the actual report. So you need to educate them. Tell them, Mr. Buyer, at this point, you have the right to do all kinds of inspections. The one I recommend to you is the physical inspection. If you choose to do other inspections above that, that's fantastic. But at least have the physical inspection done. But you need to know this. The home is over 40 years old. It does have situations that are going to arise. And so you will see maybe, you know, 30 to 50 items that this physical inspector is going to call out. Doesn't mean that those 30 to 50 items are going to get repaired. It just means that you know what are the things that need to get repaired. But the one thing the physical inspection will do for you is identify a big problem. So if you have little problems like the windowsills are dirty and damaged or whatever, and they just need to be scraped and painted. Or if you have, you know, closet door rails that are no longer there or not working. Those things we don't pay big attention to. But if you have a problem with the foundation, if you have a big problem with the roof, wouldn't you want to know that, Mr. Buyer? And then we can probably either resolve with the seller or you decide that if you want to move forward with it and you'll take care of it in the future, or you walk away from the deal. So you're protecting your client. Do you think that the client is going to trust you? I know we don't want to have canceled transactions because of a problem that arises in the property, but your license is going to make you a lot more money than that one deal will. So you got to protect yourself and you got to protect your clients. So just talking with them and educating them, you know, Mr. Buyer, there might be 30 things that come up on this physical inspection report. And right now, probably none of them are going to get fixed. Your buyer may have to agree to fix some lender required repairs. if there are any, because of the way the market is. But typically, for the majority of my 20-year career, we've negotiated these things. So talking and communicating again is a big deal. This one is a great one. This is like totally unforeseen. You know, you get a buyer into a transaction and they're in love with the house in the beginning, and they just one day wake up and decide, oh, I don't want to get into this transaction. This is a 30-year commitment I'm getting myself into, and it's a huge payment. And, you know, they come up with all kinds of reasons why they don't want to do the transaction. And this is called buyer's remorse. And I learned this lesson early in my career, even before I put a transaction in. I was lucky enough to take a class with Bruce where he talked about this. And one of the funny things that I thought he did, and he brought it up during the class, was he had a buyer's remorse pill bottle. Okay. What he did was he filled that bottle with M&Ms. And he would hand it to the buyers and he would tell them, hey, by the way, you're not buying a pair of shoes. You're not buying a bicycle. This is probably going to be the biggest purchase that you're ever going to make in your life. And people get nervous. This will happen to you at one point or another. And it usually will happen late at night. And it will happen, you know, at 11 o'clock at night, and you don't want to call me because you think I'm not going to be awake or whatever. So I'm going to give you this buyer's remorse pill bottle. And I'm going to tell you, take 2 of these and call me in the morning. Okay? M&M's is something sweet and everybody loves chocolate. I mean, I can think of maybe one person in my life, and I know a lot of people that doesn't like chocolate, but the majority of people do like chocolate. So M&M's, you can make it Skittles, you can make it whatever you want. But if you talk about it from the very beginning with your buyer, the likelihood that they'll get to the point where they're going to be that nervous about it and they're going to want to cancel the deal because of it is a lot less. And so you give them this pill bottle and you tell them, call me in the morning. And then in the morning you tell them, well, remember, where do you live now? You're paying how much rent? How long have you been paying rent? And I do the arithmetic with my clients most of the time when we sit in for the first time. So how long have you been living here? You know, 7 years, 10 years, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And how much rent do you pay? So I'll do the math with you guys really quick, and just to do it in a fashion that you can understand where the conversation goes. So, Mr. Buyer, you're paying $1,000 worth of rent per month. That's $12,000 in a year. That's $60,000 in 5 years. That's $120,000 in 10 years. You've been paying $120,000 towards your landlord's mortgage. Don't you think that it's a benefit to you to pay it towards your own mortgage while your property acquires value? If you have these 2 pieces of conversation with your buyer in the very beginning, the likelihood for buyer's remorse is so much less. No information. There's studies out there that show that children that live in owned homes by their parents do better in school because they feel more secure about their living situation. They don't have to worry about having to move at one point or another and losing their friends. So it just creates more stability, and the children of homeowners actually do better in school, and the likelihood that they wind up going to college is a lot higher. So these kinds of pieces of information is great to have a conversation with your buyer at one point or another. It just keeps reinforcing the reasons they're buying a home. The reason for it, don't let one transaction make you or break you. You know, somebody really smart, the other manager in this office, Russell Alberg, who's been in the business a little bit longer than I have, said something to me. He says, the worst thing that can happen to a brand new agent is have an easy first transaction. Because then they think every transaction is going to be that way. And if a difficult transaction comes their way, they're just going to want to give up. So the best thing that can ever happen to you is have a difficult first transaction, because you learn a lot from those transactions and you build yourself up to be able to deal with difficulties in the future. Understand that every transaction or every appointment will not go as you planned it or expected it to go. I've had to walk away from taking a listing because the seller was unrealistic as far as the commission he wanted to pay. It's okay to let one go from time to time. Throw the little fish back in the sea, you guys. Revisit your transactions, even the good ones, even the ones you close, revisit them. Look at the little issues that you had, because every transaction has its issues. Look at them, learn from every experience. Learn from those that have experience around you. If you're brand new in the business, you want to learn from those who are closing transactions right now. So in your business meetings, in your office meetings, you want to have your agents share their difficult transactions because you want to learn from them. Don't let it happen to you. You know, take advantage of everybody else's experience and you want to learn from them. Our company is fantastic because, you know, I was in the Southgate office for about a month or so before I moved up to Victorville. And I had been at the Norwalk office and now at the Lakewood office and at the Victorville office. So I've been at 4 of our 18 offices. And one of the things that I see across the board is that our top producers, they're sweethearts. They're willing to share their knowledge. You want to take advantage of that. You don't want to abuse it. You don't want to walk in there when they're really busy and ask them a question, but you want to take advantage of what they know. And if you see that they have a free minute and you're having an issue with the transaction, why not run it across them? Maybe they have a different solution that you're thinking of. Maybe you can't come up with a solution, but they have one. So there's not a problem with sharing it, you know, but it's the way that you share it. Okay. And I'm going to bring that up in a little bit. But learn from those around you. We have great experienced agents. Your manager is fantastic. Knowledgeable, experience in the business. And one of my favorite managers, go to him. They're there to help you. They're not, I will say that I can actually say that they're never going to be too busy to help you. Sometimes you got to give them a sec, you got to give them a minute. Sometimes they're putting out somebody else's fire. So you got to give them a minute, or maybe they're putting out their own fire. They all do transactions too. I have 4 of them right now. So give them room. If they tell you, wait a second, it's not because they don't care or because they don't want to. It's because they're really busy. So give them a sec. Recognize your own mistake. A lot of times we miss something. We forget to do something. Make sure it doesn't happen again, but understand that maybe the mistake was yours, not your clients, not the lenders, not the escrow, not the title. And if it was your mistake, make sure that you recognize it. Thank everybody that was in the transaction with you, all of your partners, the service providers. thank them for making every effort to try to make the deal work. Because there's nothing worse than having a bad transaction get worse by building walls between people that are actually there to help you. Don't make that same mistake again. Make a note of it. One transaction doesn't determine what kind of agent you are or will be. You do. You determine what kind of agent you're going to make. And if you were a different kind of real estate agent before this conversation, then you can decide to be a different kind of agent from this point on. Put the effort in, put the work in, resolve to do the right thing by communicating, by actually facing whatever situation comes up the way that you should as a professional. Don't get overheated. Don't yell at the other agent. Have a real conversation and try to resolve it. If they get overheated, you be the professional. I've gotten into transactions where the agent on the other side just wasn't professional and just threatening and yelling and bad words or whatever. You don't put out a fire by bringing more fire to it. I would say, I can see that you can't really have this conversation right now. So I'm going to give you a little breathing room. And when you can have a professional conversation with me, call me back. Thank you. And I would hang up. If they call right back right that second, I wouldn't pick up. Or you can pick up again. If they're continuing to yell, then say, you're still not ready to talk. When you're ready to talk, call me back. Thank you. Be the professional. Because people want to work with professionals. My slideshow stops there, but I have a few more notes for you. But I'm wondering if anybody has any questions. Let me see. Going to the beach, but with what money? You don't have to. Do you have to have money to go to the beach?
No.
No.
You go to the park.
Sometimes if you quarters on the machine, but I mean, that's it. Pack a couple of sandwiches and just go to the beach. Blocking them? Rafael, are you blocking the listing agent? You want to create goals, okay? You don't want to get stuck with the one transaction. Don't let the one deal define you. Just because you had one transaction that went bad, that doesn't mean your career is going to go bad. Again, I'm going to tell you, the one deal doesn't define what kind of agent you are. You do. So make yourself some goals. If it took you how many phone calls and how many people you reached out to get that person into a transaction and went sideways, big deal. You're going to just talk to that many more people and get another person into a transaction. But if you keep a good relationship with your clients, I have somebody, Brenda, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I really like the idea of the buyer's remorse bottle. Was that in a, now what type of bottle? I couldn't quite hear. What type of bottle was it? Because I'm gonna steal that idea.
Just whatever kind of bottle you could. There's some really great clear. I'm showing you vitamin bottles right now, but
Okay.
If you go to Home Goods or a Tuesday Morning or whatever, they have like the little herb bottles that you can use with the cork.
Okay. Yeah.
You can get some of those and just put on their, buyer's remorse pills or whatever, just a label, a cute label that says that.
I love that.
Yeah, it's just a good thing to take care of right up front. So create your goals yearly, monthly, weekly, daily. Dennis and I even have hourly. I learned from Dennis that if you book your calendar 80%, you get so much more done. And you leave the 20% of your calendar open so that you can squeeze in things that need to get done. In the beginning, we talked about people getting into the real estate business because of the flexibility. Yes, flexibility doesn't mean not working. there's not a time card you clock in, but if you don't show up to the office, if you don't make your phone calls, if you don't reach out to your sphere of influence, how are you going to get the deals in? They're not going to fall in your lap. You got to have a CRM. You got to reach out to your people. You want to take advantage of our great and excellent training. Remember, I told you in the beginning, I got into the business because a friend that had a mortgage. He didn't have a mortgage. He had a brokerage. He did mortgages and real estate sales, and he was killing it. And I actually went for my license because I asked him, and go, if I get my license, will you hire me? And he said, oh, sure. Then I got my license. He says, I don't have time to train you. Go to one of those big companies and get trained. And then once you get trained, come back and work with me. So a couple of days, I was so upset. A couple of days later, somebody came and knocked on my door. And we had field recruiters back then. And he said, Bruce Mulhern wants to talk to you. And I'm like, who's Bruce Mulhern? He tells me, well, he owns this company. Back then, I think we had 20 offices or something. He says, he wants to talk to you about coming on board. My hair was all over the place. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. I was getting my kids ready to go to school. I was in my pajamas, and this guy in a suit walks up and offers me a job in my house. And I'm like, oh my God, but I wound up going that afternoon to visit with Bruce. And then I talked with somebody else. I can't remember for the life of me who it was. And they sent me over to talk to the manager at the Norwalk office. I sit there and I tell him my story about my businesses and everything. And then finally I shut up and I ask him, so do you want to hire me? He says, you're going to do great in this business. And so that's how I got hired. But I took the training and I started killing it. Those 4 transactions, 3 of them fell out. I closed 1. That year, I made $88,000 in gross commission, my first year not knowing the business. My second year, I did 125. Every year after that, I did over 200 in commission for the first few years. Now I don't do that amount of business because why don't we do that kind of business, Freddie?
I'm sorry, repeat it again.
Now I don't do that amount of business where I'm a top producer anymore. Why don't we do that amount of business?
Because we're here to help our agents succeed. Pretty much, that's why. To help them.
We're managing, so that takes
techniques, everything that we have learned from the past to pass it on to you guys. Pretty much, that's why.
That's why. Practice your scripts. Oh my God, scripts, you guys. Nobody wants to do scripts because they feel like they sound robotic. They don't have to be anybody else's scripts. They can be your own scripts. You want to have scripted responses for typical questions that buyers and sellers ask, because then you're ready for it. They don't catch you off guard. So make a list of questions that buyers will ask, that sellers will ask, and come up with what you think is the best way to respond to that. And then if you respond to it that way and it doesn't work and something else pops up, you want to have a response for that. Don't let one conversation deter you from keep on trying, okay? Keep building on your scripts. Learn your scripts. It doesn't have to be anybody else's script. It can be your own, because you want to use your own words, or take somebody else's script and tweak it. Make it your own. So you can have a conversation like this, where you're actually sharing information that's in here, but you're using the right words to communicate what you're trying to say. Understand sales objections. Part of doing the scripts is actually understanding the objections. What are they objecting to? And actually respond to that. Revisit past appointments, calls, transactions, and improve on the way you responded to questions that people asked. You want to be ready for whatever comes your way. Be confident. Be happy. People don't want to hang out with people that are not confident. They don't want to hang out with people that are mad, upset, or stressed. They want to hang out with happy, confident people. So if you're going to do good in this business, you've got to be happy. Most of the time you're going to see me smiling. If you go to any of the meetings and you see me, I'm always going to smile at you. Right, Freddie?
That is correct. I concur.
I'm always smiling. And doesn't mean I don't have problems. I have 2 transactions that right now one was supposed to fund yesterday. but the smile is on my face
You know, Ruby,
because
yeah, Ruby, sorry, the way I see it, look, again, you know, your personal life, leave it at home, and your business life, leave it at work. Again, whatever you do with it at home, stay at home. Same thing, whatever you do at work, leave it at work. That's it.
and leave one transaction away from the other because one is going bad, you can't take it out on the other. So it's important that you understand that we're in the, even though we're not performers, that we're in the performance business. And you want to perform well. I was watching the midtime show for a football game from a while back. J-Lo and Shakira did a halftime show together. And I kept thinking to myself, I was watching that right before I did this class for the Saturday series. And I kept thinking to myself, you know, these women go out there and they perform that way. Do you think that they're thinking what kinds of problems they're having with their spouse when they're about to come out for the show? No, they're out there pumping themselves up to get ready for those kinds of shows. When you're going to go see a client, you got to pump yourself. Put your favorite song on, you know, like your jam. Do your statements. What do you call them? Your affirmations. You want to have a routine that you do so that you can pump yourself up and get out there and just kill it, you know? Don't get distracted. Don't multitask. Time block your calendar. From this time to this time, I'm going to make my phone calls. From this time to this time, I'm going to take my appointments. From this time to this time, I'm going to send out thank you notes, whatever. Don't get distracted. Don't multitask. Do one thing and do it well. Follow up. This one I wrote 3 times, guys. Let me see. Oh, you can't see it. But on my notes, it says follow up, follow up, follow up. You have to, because, you know, there are people that are interested in buying a home. They had a little bad credit. It took them a few months to take care of it. And if you're not around, they're going to go to the person that is. So follow up with people. Hey, how's it going with your credit report? Is there something that I can help you with? Are you having trouble with anything? Just make a phone call. Have a great voicemail message that you're going to leave people when you're making calls. Something to the effect, hey, I got some really great real estate news I'm going to share with you. Give me a call back. You know, make up whatever it is, but do it so that it's encouraging for them to call you back. And, you know, this class was kind of designed for brand new agents, but there's so many of us that are so experienced, and sometimes we just need a lift me up, and we can always improve ourselves. There's something that you can always add. So it was created for newer agents, but I'm hoping that it was of value for you experienced agents. And I hope that, you know, I brought something of value to you today.
Yes, you did, Ruby. And thank you very much. And, you know, in other words, in other terms, let us be your monster, your Red Bull, your boost, right? Your energy drink, right? Let us pump you up, guys. So again, that's what we're here for, to help you succeed. Again, I preach, I practice. I want to help you guys, want to pump you up. Again, let us be your back ally. Let us be your backbone. Let us be your support. Again, that's why we're here. Again, you know, you have a great 20 offices throughout Southern California, from Victorville all the way to Northridge, everything in between, folks. Again, you guys are not alone. You guys don't have to conduct your business in Starbucks or McDonald's or any other place or the park. Again, go to our Berkshire Hathaway offices. So again, you have all this bunch of great trainings. Again, Ruby, thank you, Ruby, for taking the time to also again, but don't get so hung up on one wonder. Again, it's just like artists, like singers, right? Again, the one-hit wonder, right? That it's just like that. Again, don't just think because you did it once, that's it. Continue moving forward. Again, yesterday I talked to Brenda Bailey, you know, in our Downey office. She's doing great. She's a new age licensee who came on board last year, but again, she's kicking butt. She's definitely kicking butt, and I say, continue that great momentum. Don't stop. This is the time you definitely continue, gotta move forward. Keep moving, continue running the ball. Keep going forward. Again, don't stop, Brenda. You're doing great. Keep it up. And again, things will happen. If you stop, it's gonna take more time to get back on track again. So please keep it going. Keep the boats rolling, folks. So again, set your goals. daily goals, weekly goals, monthly, quarterly, yearly, half a year, whatever that is, small goals, big goals, obtainable goals, long-term, whatever that is. Again, just today by being on this class, you guys set a goal to be able to attend our class. So that's, again, no matter how you see it, you got to feel great about yourself. At the end of the day, it's about you, about your business, and by your clientele, and how to provide back to your family. So you're gonna have great help, again, from corporate, from dentists to the top, from the Moore family, who are being great. Again, this is a great legacy that Bruce left behind. Again, guys, we have come a long ways. Again, this company is not gonna go nowhere. Again, it's been 53 years and they're moving forward. Again, nothing's gonna happen. Again, this office, this building, this legacy is if you're here today and tomorrow. So you're in a great place, great location. Just please use us, help you, and that's it. Again, don't make an excuse. Well, Freddie, there's no business. No, right now, this instant, someone had an offer accepted. They open escrow, they close escrow, they're checking the listing, they're making an offer, whatever that is. Just get in between from the seller and the buyer. That's it. Become the meat. All right. So I don't know. So please reach out to us. Don't be shy. Again, we have great in Downey, we have Mike Pagan, who's willing to help as well. He's a great also has a team as well. But again, you reach out to him. He's a great guy to help. Again, we have in Downey, we have JJ as well, Jose Jaime. Excuse me. So please, again, trust me, they want to share their wisdom, their knowledge with you guys. So please don't be shy. Okay. So there again, ask questions. If you don't ask questions, there's no stupid questions at all. Okay, just not having the answer for it. All right. So again, Ruby, anything else?
Wait, Rafael had a question.
Oh,
There's a question, but how you can get in front of the buyer and seller if they don't trust you as a new agent?
what, Rafael?
How
What?
many transactions did we close last year, Freddie? 3,000?
1,500, right? Yeah, 3,500. Close. Yeah, 3,400.
1,000.
Yeah, 3,400.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 3,400.
Yes.
It all really comes down to how you're marketing yourself. We're in the marketing business, guys. The numbers are there. If it's not your own numbers, you can use your office numbers. You can use your company numbers. You can use the brand numbers. People will, if they let you in, if they're already talking to you, it's because they trusted you.
And the way to also get into the front of the people, Rafael, is to have confidence within yourself. Again, the more knowledge, the more skills, the more confident you feel by yourself. Again, trust me, they will see automatically that you're saying pretty much that you bring value to them, right? When it comes to either buying a home or selling a home, whatever that is, right? Again, first of all, you gotta have confidence in with yourself. Look, Mr. Seller, right, Mr. Buyer, this is the value that I bring to you to help, for me, allow me to help you on this transaction. How can I help you? That's it. How may I help you on your sale, on your buying?
Well, Rafael, what they were talking about when they're referring to the, the company or the office sold the property. For instance, Freddie just sold the property in the Southgate Hollandale area. So if you were to door knock or cold call the area, you would say, my company just sold the property in your area. So you're not really lying to them. It's the truth. So you're taking the power of your office or your company and making it your own. Once you've built your clientele, then it's, I just sold the property in your area. So that's what I believe everyone. Ruby, you used the same thing when you started, Freddie?
Yes.
So did I. I had the exact same question, Rafael, the exact same question to Freddie. I'm like, well, these people are already doing 100 transactions a year. How am I going to do that, Freddie? And Freddie's like, well, I'm part of the company. So just boast that my company. So
My office.
Yeah, my office.
If you say my office, I don't know how many deals your office closed last year, Freddie, but if you say, my office last year closed 300 deals, I'm going to represent you to the best of my capability. And you look them in the eye, they feel that confidence in you and they understand that you know the business and they're going to trust you. So it's the reality of using the power of the name, using the power of the brand, using the power of the company. Our company has been in business for 53 years. I'm with a company that's been in business for 53 years, sir. this is how we're going to represent you. It's being confident.
And again, if you don't know, you have a great team behind me as well. Again, for my manager, for my coworkers to help you again on your transaction. So there's many techniques you can use, Rafael, and then I'll be using this call again. So please utilize them, put them to practice. And again, role play, script practice. Again, you guys definitely gotta can your scripts, pretty much. And if you know how to say it, and what to say it, and how to answer it, trust me, guys, that's it. There's no magic pill, there's no silver bullet, nothing like that. Again, real estate is real estate. That's how it is. We the agents make it complicated, just like by arguing with the other agent because we didn't like the way they talk to us or the way they handle their business. Again, who cares? Let it be. Like Ruth said, give them time, take a breather, call me back. And then we could definitely solve the issue. Let's work together. Let's come together as a team. Because again, it's not about we, it's about them, your seller and my buyer helping you to close this transaction. That's it. That's how it is at the end of the day. It's not my sale, it's not my buying. No, it's not. It's them, it's the parties. That's why it is stipulated in the purchase contract. Again, the seller and the buyer are referred as the parties, and the brokers are not affiliated to the seller. So again, guys, so it's up to you guys to now get up, make some phone calls, right? Start hitting some doors when it's possible to hit some doors, pass some flyers, mailers, whatever that is. Again, but take action. Take the initiative to take action. Working your numbers. How many hours you want to make work a day, right? How many contacts you gotta create? Again, a contact is somebody you talk to about real estate. Even though they curse you off, they say no, we're not interested, or not at this moment, or maybe tomorrow. That is a contact. Okay, communication. We have to create communications, create relationships together. Don't be a secret agent. Go out there, let them know who you are. Who do you work for? Again, this is not FBI, this is not CIS, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Again, folks, please, I'm a real estate agent, I'm a realtor. I'm your local realtor in your neighborhood. Right? Just like Spider-Man. The friendly Spider-Man, right? I'm your local
friendly neighborhood realtor.
Right? Yeah, guys. So please, again, start, the best way is to start with your family and your friends as a new licensee, new agent.
Not even the Secret Service.
Excuse me?
You don't have
The
to.
Secret Service, they said the FBI, CIA.
You also don't have to knock at every door and say, do you want to sell your house? You can just knock on the door and say, hey, I brought you some tax information. Or, hey, I brought you the listings that have sold around your home. You want to know where the value of your home is today?
Icebreakers.
Yes. It doesn't have to be about, do you want to use me as your listing agent? No.
Just provide any information, any value to them. Let them know what's going on in their neighborhood. That's it.
Yeah.
Again,
I just brought you a notepad. I thought you could use it. Here it is. It's nice to say hello.
And I'm here if you need help. Any questions you have?
Yeah, those are two quick points that we touched on yesterday when we were doing the script practicing. Is that it helps you create conversations, and conversations will lead to appointments. The other thing is what Rafa, when you mentioned about that you're a new agent. If you sound like a professional, nobody will ever question whether or not how long you've been in the business. So being scripted and canned presentations to the point where nobody will know that you just started last week. You know what I mean? Because if you get that good, people are going to go and they're going to be attracted to you. Like, oh, this guy's he's a top producer. They won't know your numbers because you don't really have numbers. But again, like the Ruby said, use the office numbers, but at the same time, man, this guy sounds so professional that you'll never be questioned.
You know what Bruce's response was? What he taught us to say, like way back when, he would tell us to say, it feels like forever. You went through whatever amount of time to get your courses done. Then you went through the entire DRE process, and then you get licensed and you go through basic training. So you go through all this training in the very beginning, and they ask you, how long have you been in the business? Oh my God, it feels like forever.
But
It,
honestly,
it doesn't, you don't have to answer it. They may come back and say, well, okay, so how long have you been in the business? Our company has been in business for 53 years.
Yeah.
The chance that they'll ask a third time,
now, if they do, you know what? Yes, I might be 1 year in the business, but guess what? I'm taking all these trainings and knowledge to help you. So then again, I have a team who's backing me up. My manager, who's been 20 plus years in the business, who knows what he's doing pretty much. Now, how can we can help you? So, but again, me personally, I never have asked that question. How long have you been in the business? I never. Again, I can't even say for never. Eddie, Ruby,
No,
yes. Anybody here have they asked you that question? Brenda, have they asked you? Baby,
No.
you have?
Nobody asked me that question.
Yes, because again, because the way you present yourself, the way your approach, your demeanor, the way you are, right?
And you don't volunteer that information either. You're
Yeah.
gonna be like, I'm a dude.
Yeah, so it's just goes on to yourself, to your confidence, pretty much. Again, don't be cocky. It's different. Be confident. That's it. Right. All right. Anything else, Eddie? Since you're Ruby, we're good. All right. So since less is more in real estate, go get it, guys. Come on, go get some business out there. Go hustle. Make some phone calls. Make some calls, whatever it takes to generate income. Okay. So again, it's a great year. So 2022, and our motto for this year is make 2 more deals, add to your pipeline. Okay, so if you did 0, add 2. If you 20, add 22. All right, guys.
all right, guys.
Take care. God
Thank
bless
you,
you guys.
guys.
I'll see you guys
Thank you.
next Tuesday. For our Southgate agents, tomorrow, 10 o'clock office meeting, Southgate, and then
10
our
o'clock.
Downey. I'm sorry.
10 o'clock, you said, yes.
Yeah, 10 o'clock for Southgate tomorrow, and our Downey. It'll be the next Wednesday, which is the 9th. Yeah, 9th.
All right, guys. Take care.
Take care. See you soon. Adios.